Two, one, go. Sony. I think this is probably the first Sony film we've done.
Yeah,
It is refreshing to see intros, you know. Um, oh yeah, Columbia Pictures. What's the Pegasus one again? That's TriStar, isn't it?
yeah, that's right.
I always get those two kind of mixed up. So yeah, Sony Pictures. There's a popular thing going around where pretty much everything they touch is just shit these days, apparently. But I don't necessarily agree with that. I do like seeing some new logos at the start of films these days, um, because then you most likely are going to have a bit of spark of creativity in them.
Yeah, some originality. Look at these amazing shots of the
It's the Milky Way, isn't
galaxies.
it? Yeah.
It looks like a spiral galaxy, yeah. And these incredible shots of nebulas.
Yeah, I was really kind of taken away with the intro to this, and straight away, like, there's no like mucking around. Like, we transitioned from like production logos and all of that straight into a prologue, and it was so
Yeah, they,
seamless. Like, there's no mucking around with 65.
they really remind me that incredible shot, I think from the Hubble Space Telescope, of the pillars of creation. These incredibly large nebulas. They just
Yeah.
rethinks your entire concept of the cosmos and the universe. It's just incredible how old this universe is. It's hard
And
to really um, wrap my mind around.
yeah, I really like this. Yeah, Planet Samaras. Uh, yeah, one thing that I quite enjoyed about that intro there is that, like, there was a good quote in Dominion that I think really reflects this film, and that is, like, we're only a fraction of our own planet, and dinosaurs are only a slightly larger fraction of that. But then you get this
Yeah,
massive, grand, zooming scale of the Milky Way down to this fictitious planet. It really puts into contrast of just how grand dinosaurs are. Even those guys are not even a drop in the ocean compared to what's really out there. I thought the scaling of the intro is really cool, like that.
yeah, because it's something we probably can't comprehend. I mean, we can read about it in like figures and numbers and that, but yeah, just to truly grasp the size and scope of the universe, just countless galaxies. It's yeah, it's really awe-inspiring, and I guess it stands to reason with how old the universe is that yeah, advanced civilizations could have risen and fallen in that time. I mean, are humans the first intelligent life, or are we the millionth?
Yeah, what
It's
came first, the chicken or the egg? There's
if
It's
they
the
are out
age
there,
old
there are
question.
yeah, if they are out there, they're a long way away,
One
wherever they are.
one thing I like about this planet that they've zoomed down on is that it's nowhere near civilization of this world. Like you've got these kind of makeshift stone tidal waves in the background there. Like,
Yeah, the
the landscape is quite like alien. It'd be hard to believe it wasn't man-made, or if it, like, instead of occurring naturally. But we're not focused on like a futuristic city with hover cars and all of that. It's literally just a family enjoying a day at the beach.
yeah, there's some really interesting rock formations in the background.
Yeah, I like that sky. You know what it reminded me of? It almost reminded me of the that George Clooney cover of Solaris. Is what it almost reminded me of.
Yeah, really underrated movie, that one too.
So I think we should get into it. What's your take on Adam Driver?
Really interesting, I find him. When you look at his body of work, he's been in some, yeah, really different roles and different films, and I haven't seen a lot of his recent work. I read the book for the film he's in with Matt Damon, The Duel, The Last Duel, incredible story. So I was really looking forward to checking it out. But I was pretty satisfied with the book. I should make a mental note to watch the film adaptation. And it's another. The House of Gucci looked interesting as well, but some friends of mine said it wasn't that good. He was good in it, but the film didn't really um, come together the way it should have. He was Kylo Ren in the Star Wars sequels as well, and he was probably, in terms of acting, he was probably the best thing about those movies.
I believe he had a background in television first, didn't he? Before he made the jump to film.
Yeah, the name of the show escapes me, but he was in a show that was aimed at, I think, primarily women. I believe that was, I think Kathleen Kennedy was a fan of the show, and she's a big fan of his work and wanted him for a role in Star Wars. So I think that's how
Well,
that came
I
about.
think
I think I read.
thank God for that decision. By the way, um,
Yeah,
and the asteroid belt here, like straight away, like there's no, like it doesn't string you out. One thing that I particularly enjoyed about this film is that it doesn't string you out with the because it would have got torn apart for the old cliche, the long goodbye and all of that. You had the talk with the wife, why he's doing this, the voyage, and you do get little hints throughout the film of how long it's been, and the daughter's condition and all of that. No mucking around. It cuts straight to it. You get the screen showing cargo of humans, so you know what he's doing. He's ferrying people back to their home, and it immediately thrusts you into this. You know, like it's not so much about sci-fi kind of exploration. It's using that to get you where it needs to go, and that's to get him on Earth 65 million years ago. Like just no mucking around.
yeah, and it's interesting. He's a pilot, not a soldier or a warrior or a tough guy, action kind of badass. He's a pilot, which helps to sort of flesh out and explain why he's so under the pump a lot in this movie.
Yeah, he really doesn't. Like at no point in the film, and it really stuck out to me watching it a second time. It really stuck out that he's not playing with a full deck pretty much the entirety of this movie. Like there's always a hindrance. There's always like he's injured in the crash, so physically he's not the best he can be.
Yeah,
You know, there's a language barrier with Koa, who we'll meet in a moment, which I think was a very kind of interesting spin. It sort of reminded me of Logan a little bit, but it took it and just did not budge on it at all the way that Logan did.
yeah,
And it's always nice. I'm glad that Adam Driver, with his filmography, I'm glad that he hasn't been typecast as a villain all the time. So to see him in a sort of more of a protagonistic role for a change in a film like this with some backing and some like a good budget and all of that, it was nice to see him play a hero.
yeah. That's why I think his body of work is really interesting because he's in well, a fair few films now, and they're all so different.
Yeah, like
Like
he was in that. I think it was called Marriage Story with Scarlett Johansson. So like he's no stranger to rom coms or anything like that either. I don't know if it is. It could be a very bleak romantic film for all I know. But
Yeah, that's more of a one about a marriage in trouble, I think.
oh yeah, well there you go then. You're trying to tell me there's not a comedic element in that? Um, yeah,
Watching guys fuck up their lives, marrying people they shouldn't.
yeah, it happens.
There's a lot of comedy in that.
Well, you know, I wouldn't take marriage advice from a guy who's never been married nor has any interest in getting married, or a guy who's been divorced twice.
Yeah.
But you know what? He's good. He likes to get into character.
Yeah, and we get some interesting designs with the ship and the spacesuit.
I thought it was kind of because usually with these sort of indie sci-fi, and now this isn't it. Like this is a Sony film, but like it's not a massive property. It's a one-shot, 90-minute long film, sci-fi, dinosaurs. A lot of criticisms films like this tend to get is, oh yeah, well they've knocked that off from like Mass Effect, or they've knocked that off from Babylon 5, or they've knocked this off from, okay, guys, everything's a knockoff of something else. But
Yeah.
when I first saw 65, I thought like the costume design, like it's sort of a trope these days. Like even back as early as like the '98 Lost in Space film with Matt LeBlanc, like having skin tight kind of jumpsuits and all of that. Now, while Adams isn't skin tight in this, I like the kind of patch patterns prints on the grey undershirt that he's got. It's got a very nice kind of design here. It,
Yeah, and it goes to show with that point you made then how riddled addicted we are to franchises, existing franchises. It's very, very difficult to get an original property up these days, and it's even doubly harder for that original property, if it does get up, to do well commercially. People
yeah,
are
exactly.
just so weaned. We're so weaned now on franchises. Audiences, by and large, won't give something like this a go.
Which I think was the bulk of its trouble. Like, I believe it was like a moderate success. Yeah, like
Yeah,
it justified being made. But I don't think it was ever set out to be a massive, dominate the box office hit. I really do think that this was just a bit of fun that they
yeah.
wanted to do.
We sometimes forget that it's not the best thing ever made. But by that same token, it's not trying to be. It's trying to be, like you said, a solid one and done adventure that you can have fun with for an hour and a half.
And I think it
Doesn't
does a
have to
very
be the
good job of
greatest
that.
thing ever made.
Yeah, it's funny how everything is held up to that kind of bar. You
Yeah.
know, very very powerful moment here with Adam Driver, and this really got me on the rewatch as well. Is that he's literally looking for a reason to not end his own life now. And
Yeah.
you do get a bit more shades to that. I know a lot of films try to steer clear from this, and we're not allowed to say the S word and all that kind of jazz these days. But it's a very powerful sort of moment here that really kind of sets where he's at. And you do get glimpses throughout the film with Koa watching the recordings and all that as to why he's not all that keen on getting rescued. Like, there's no survivors. He does this update. He hasn't discovered Koa yet, but the daughter at this point has passed, and we find that out pretty
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah, because we're not aware of that at the moment.
Yeah, and it really it really puts into contrast as to why he's like this. Like, it's not just the cargo, it's that as well.
Yeah, and the film's approach to the creatures, it does play them for scares. Like, I jumped when that marine animal sort of poked its fin up and then went back down. I thought, holy Christ.
Yeah, I know, yeah. The animal
There are
designs in this
some
were really
genuine,
cool.
yeah, there were some genuinely good jump scares in this as well.
Oh, yeah, I needed a change of underwear when the oviraptor um, got a hold of him. Um, yeah, and I was reading that this was all filmed in Ireland.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's again, it's another one of those things that's I can try and imagine 1% of it, at what the world would have been like in the Cretaceous period. We know from books and from scientific discoveries and that, but I sometimes wonder, because we're so used to noise with human civilization so spread out. There's noise everywhere. There's background noise. There's the hustle and bustle of life in urban settings, but none of that would have existed back then,
Yeah.
or even 100,000 years ago. So it's just so wonderful to kind of imagine, and the Cretaceous period was a bit of a hellish landscape. There was oceans oscillating in the mid-Cretaceous. There's a huge amount of carbon dioxide, so there was the entire composition of the atmosphere was different to what we have now. There's some really intriguing theories as to why, with a huge uptick in volcanic activity, huge eruptions, because you get these, like, even as a boy and all through my life, these wonderful, art pieces of T-Rexes and Triceratops battling with exploding volcanoes in the background. That's
Yeah,
what life in the Cretaceous was like.
Yeah, I've often wondered, and it's something that this film does very well, because this is only like a week before the KT extinction.
Yeah.
Like, this film takes place. I believe Mills and Koa are on Earth for about 2 or 3 days. But the asteroid belt that he ran into is what causes the KT extinction, and I really enjoyed the fact that the film takes that and runs with it. Like, we're so hardcore about how scientific accuracy a film does it, no one goes to see it.
Yeah, I quite liked the little detail that the girl notices, and I'm glad they fleshed it out into a plot point. It could have worked either way, with a as a fun little Easter egg or as a main story beat. But I'll get to that when in the actual scene as he meets Koa.
Yeah, you just shoot the lock off, mate. You got to get hardcore about it. Yeah, so it was going to be a 2-year trip. I don't know if the clip that we just saw of the daughter, but she does that. There's a clip of the daughter where she does a dance saying that it was the halfway mark. So Mills has been in isolation as the pilot for at least a year.
Yeah. So they were on their way back, is that correct?
I'm not too sure. He says
It
to the
doesn't
girl, "I was taking you home," but like if he gets the update on the halfway, then that must mean he's on the way back.
Yeah, I was a bit confused at what stage of the journey he was up to. I guess because he crashed, it's kind of a moot point. And of course, in every Dino movie, you got to have the famous footprint, don't you? Really, just to really set the tone going forward.
Yeah, I thought that was really good because the payoff to that, it doesn't happen for quite a while. Like, I don't mind setting something up, but when you set something up for it to literally happen the next sequence, why did you even bother setting it up? You could have just had a Rex come running out of nowhere, and that was the first thing he saw. I'm glad that they let you wait to get there.
It's just the film having some fun with some nods to Jurassic Park. And another interesting thing, we're well and truly into the movie where we get the title sequence.
Yeah, it's about 15 minutes into it. And we actually get and I do like the little spin on that, the 65 million years ago. It's the title, but it's also a subtle little update there. Oh, subtle. Yeah, subtle's getting hit in the head with a brick. And it's on Earth. And I've always wondered what primordial Earth would have actually have been like back then as well. Like,
very hostile. The film really takes that sort of approach well. That prehistoric Earth is a very violent, kill or be killed place. It's survival of the fittest. It's the law of the jungle.
Yeah, like when the eldest living skeleton of a T-Rex we got, it only lived to be 30 years old, they believe. It just goes to show you how tooth and nail it really was. Like, I don't think T-Rex is a geriatric at 30 years old. The T-Rex in question has had, the skeleton has shown signs of constant repair over its lifetime of 30 years and all of that. Like, this thing has been in countless battles, it just to get ahead, far out.
Yeah, well, the environment was changing. Like, it wasn't the dinosaurs died out late Cretaceous, but by the mid Cretaceous they were struggling. There were extinctions during the mid Cretaceous period as well that we still don't entirely understand why. But a lot of marine life at the time died out and never came back. So the meteor was not good.
It didn't miss
on that, but the dinosaurs were struggling by that point.
Yeah, you have food chains, the rise of new species, and all sorts of things that were going on there. See, now, this location unknown, because one thing that I found quite interesting about the film was, are Mills and Koa actual humans, or was planet Samaris their home planet to begin with? It really kind of leaves that up to you. I don't believe they flat out say it, because I would like to think that even though it's Earth 65 million years ago, there seems to be this kind of belief going around that he went back in time when the asteroid hit him. I actually think that he's an alien. He's not a human. Obviously, he looks like a human, but he's not of Earth. And this actually does take place during the KT extinction, and that his home planet actually is Samaris. If that makes sense. I think that's where he's actually from, and they were technically advanced enough to travel, and this is happening in real time. He didn't go back in time through some transwarp cell Beast War style or anything like that. Like I do think this is happening on the trot.
Yeah, that was my take on it. That he was an alien that just happens to look human.
Yeah,
I guess it's fun to flirt with the idea that he traveled through time, but there's nothing in the film
that
in terms
indicates
of
that.
dialogue, yeah, that suggests that. But
Yeah, and the PDA that he's got that he keeps pulling out all the time that scans things in the environment and all of that. Like I'd like to think if this was an advanced human, like in our timeline from the future that did go back in time, there would be some evidence that we came from Earth. I'd like to think,
yeah,
but no, I do think he's just an alien, and this is happening on the trot. Like we're
yeah,
still a ways away yet, and the film makes a point of that in the credits.
yeah, I quite like that effect there with the acidic eruptions.
Yeah, like steam and all of that, because like it's showing that even though the asteroid hasn't made itself known yet, the Earth itself is changing. Like you've got like
Yeah.
these hot geysers just spraying out of the ground and all sorts of things. And
Oh shit, that was another good jump scare.
yeah, it's awesome that that the because he's looking at dinosaurs as aliens. So I like to
Yeah,
think in some roundabout way that's another kind of little nod to like when James Cameron was attached to do Jurassic Park and he was like, I was going to make it like aliens but with dinosaurs. So in some roundabout way, that actually did see the light of day with 65. Like these dinosaurs are downright terrifying and it's in a sci-fi environment.
yeah,
So something tells me that that was a discussion they had when this came out, and that's an actual Velociraptor there, the correct size.
yeah.
Um,
Okay.
it's got the hook claws, but it's not 8 feet tall like the ones in Jurassic Park. It's literally like a 3 foot tall, as
Yeah.
we know them. Um, so again, like a lot of people who are hardcore about their accuracies, a film does that for you, and again, no one goes and sees it. I love the
Yeah.
design of his weapon here with the LEDs on the side of it. It's like the ammo counter in Aliens, and
Yeah.
I love it. Like I mean, you'd be quick to say it's a knockoff of Aliens with the pulse rifle, but I don't understand why something is a knockoff if it's tributing or paying homage to something that you like. Like, isn't it just more of what you like? Like, I like the pulse rifle, I like Mill's gun. They both have ammo readouts on them. It's just more of what I like. I like them both.
Yeah, there's lots of little nods and winks to different sci-fi films I noticed in this. I think the best one was in the spaceship at the end as they discover a carcass here.
Yeah, look at just how vicious it is.
Yeah.
Um, and some of these creatures, you don't really get a good look at them. Like, obviously, the big players are in there. One that I was surprised that wasn't in the film was the Triceratops. But I guess you want. I'm not saying it's not it's probably the most popular dinosaur next to the T-Rex. But I think it wants to focus more on the just brutality of the predators of the
Yeah.
Cretaceous.
Yeah. And I think the Triceratops is another one that would have been around late Cretaceous. It would have seen the
Well, a lot of those
extinction.
guys rocked up when the show was over. Like the T-Rex only reigned for like what 20 million years or something. It rocked up literally at the end of it.
Yeah.
A cool thing here when he pulls out the manifest of the passengers. I love these made-up shape languages. It's so awesome. Like
Yeah.
people are quick to say, "Oh yeah, but that's just generic. They could have just done anything there." I'm like, I'm glad they chose to do that than just have English on the book. Do you understand me?
Yeah,
Because it
it's
backs
a
up that he's an
really
alien.
yeah, it's a really fascinating part of filmmaking, these linguists and cartographers and things that they can hire to design these things. I had a really good time listening to the person they hired to do the imaginary languages in Game of Thrones, like High Valyrian and Dothraki, and they did a great job because when they revert to that language with the subtitles, it just makes scenes a lot more atmospheric and powerful. And yeah, I think I forget exactly what it was as a more sci-fi example. Ryan Johnson had one of them make up like the writing in one of the scenes that escapes me at the moment, but he enjoyed it so much for The Last Jedi, Ryan wrote back a thank you message in the invented language. It was a really cool story I read. A
Oh yeah.
little nice, like he loved it so much, he actually wrote it back in the language he wrote. So, what a cool thing to do to show
Uh,
your appreciation.
yeah, I know. It is possible to tip the hat and not be a dick about it. Like
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
a bit of showmanship, a bit of sportsman. It never hurt anybody. Um, I do like the kind of the seeding in of their relationship here. I think the language barrier was a very nice touch, and I was reading that Kawa's language here is totally fictitious as well,
Yeah,
designed for the movie. Which again I
yeah,
love because they would have just had her go no hables inglés if it was made by anyone else. But I'm glad that she's not. That's what I mean. Like even if it's something small like that, do something with it. Like
yeah,
this film is very good at doing that. I love using the powder to draw on. Like he didn't just pull out some sci-fi graphic 3D hologram tablet. Like I love he's explaining to her through something she can actually see and touch.
yeah, and it's a wonderful sort of lesson here. And James Cameron touches on it in some of the background features of Avatar. He said something that sort of stayed with me because one of the plot points of that film is trying to find a way to communicate. And like there's hundreds, if not thousands, of languages in the world, and humans do have that ability. If they don't speak the same language, but if we truly want to understand each other, we will find a way to communicate.
Yeah,
Whereas if two people deliberately don't want to understand each other, they're never going to find common ground, even if they speak the same language. Like you'll never get someone to accept your point if their entire livelihood depends on them not understanding.
yeah.
If their whole agenda depends on them not understanding, they'll never accept a point. So I thought it was a good anecdote, and I've always remembered it as these two characters struggle to communicate what their objective is.
And there are
And I
some
wish,
smiles in that happen throughout the film. Like it's not all doom and gloom, which I quite enjoy. And Mills keeping the parents' death a secret. There's quite a few different ways to take that. Yeah, he's just saying that to get her to come along, but I also think he's doing that out of an act of kindness there because you don't really want to. I mean, it's a 9-year-old girl. You don't really want to drop that bombshell on her just yet after coming out of cryostasis and seeing these creatures. Like
yeah,
he's being a bit like you can't really, especially with a young mind, you got to kind of ease into that. So I think it's more for her benefit than his.
yeah, it's a really good character building vignette of scenes here. I really enjoy it.
Especially in a film that keeps the runtime nice and lean.
Yeah, it's not easy to do.
Yeah, and to give us like all the broad strokes are there and all of that. Like the daughter's illness, it's not explained. Well, it's not really important though. Like what's actually wrong with her. We know she's sick. We get this scene here. Um, yeah, and we know that she's passed away. Although he hasn't said that yet. What her illness actually was isn't important to the gravity of the story.
Yeah,
So it doesn't waste time in explaining something that we know isn't going to work out. A lot of films tend to fall into that trap these days where they'll do a big exposition dump or they'll spend a lot of time fleshing something out that is going to come to an end. So like the daughter passes away, you get the broad strokes of it. It doesn't try to overinflate it so that it starts cannibalizing the rest of the film.
yeah, yeah, it's a lot more subtly. They really don't flesh it out at all. One thing I do wish they would have touched on is he mentions this girl's from a tribe. I wish they would have fleshed that out a little bit more because an advanced civilization, I'm assuming, would have conquered their language barriers. So it's an intriguing sort of thing left on the table about. I mean, they're a space faring civilization, and yet they're unable to conquer localized language barriers on their home planet. But who even knows if that is their home planet? It could be just a planet that they've colonized as
Yeah,
part of
he
their
also
broader empire.
he also says that his translator is broken as well, so they did have means of
Yeah,
getting around this,
yeah,
but most of the ship is gone, which I thought was really good.
yeah,
And funny enough, like we do have universal languages. Like I've always believed, it doesn't matter what language you speak, you can always understand music when you hear it. Like when you look at
yeah,
things like Star Wars: A Musical Journey, you can take all languages and subtitles out of that and play that for anyone. They'll listen to John Williams' music as the six films clips from them play. I don't know if they've abridged it and added the sequel trilogy into it, but the one that I was talking about was the six, and you can understand perfectly what's going on through the use of music. There's quite a few films that have done that. And someone also mentioned that another universal language is mathematics. Like numbers all add up to the same thing no matter where you're from. No, like numbers all look the same no matter where you're from. And I'm like, yeah, well, there you go then. There's two that we've got.
yeah. And maths is particularly special because maths is based on the laws of existence. Now, that quick shot there, I'll come back to in a minute. Yeah, because things must obey the laws of nature, which is, the underpins maths. And so that quick shot there of the comet approaching is probably my favorite shot in the whole film. And I would have enjoyed it just as much if it was just a little Easter egg. Because one thing that I guess with some adaptations and some artwork that I've seen is like that, like the comet just comes out of nowhere and smashes into the Earth. But the reality is, channeling a bit of Bart Simpson, I don't need a telescope; it's right there. Like you would have been able to see it in the sky
I mean,
well before.
it was what it. How big was this thing? Like it was huge. Like
Yeah,
it's kind of like Unicron.
yeah, and you do sort of feel a pang of pity because the dinosaurs would not have been smart enough to comprehend what it is.
But I also find it
It would have just been
interesting.
this
Yeah,
glint in the sky that sometimes distracts them, and they have to look up at it.
yeah, drawing inspiration from Majora's Mask.
Yeah,
I
the
do.
best
Yeah.
rendition of well, there's a couple of them. There's a really good book called The Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs that really it's so beautifully written. It really encapsulates the writer. I think his name was Steve Brasati. Like he calls it the worst day in the history of the planet.
It
Just
is.
death and devastation on a planetary scale. The chapters devoted to that really had me absorbed. And Stephen Baxter wrote a book called Evolution, and that which charts the evolution of mammals, but it picks up at the end of the Cretaceous period. The way he described the comet entering our solar system just on this inevitable collision course, this inexorable pull towards the Earth that just builds and builds and builds, and yeah, the carnage and the destruction. I was just so enthralled with it, and then he goes on to flesh out why some animals like crocodiles managed to survive it and turtles, albeit the prehistoric versions, and why the dinosaurs failed to adapt. And it's really enthralling stuff. The final days of the Cretaceous period, I really enjoy learning about it and reading about it and watching movies that delve into it.
I love how like something as small as squashing the bug. Like, look at the kind of trouble it gave Mills trying to just get it off his hand.
Yeah,
What I do quite like this moment when they rescue this iguanodon-looking thing from the tar pit. There's a very good lesson that Koa learns here when Mills tells her to leave it, because even though they do save it, it's immediately picked off by predators
yeah.
as soon as it leaves. Like, we like you can save it this time, but the food chain's there for a reason.
Yeah, I quite. It's kind of morbid, but yeah, the fact that it just gets slaughtered immediately is. I was half expecting it to happen, but I was surprised that they went ahead and did it.
Yeah.
And yeah, prehistoric Earth, everything was lethal. Like
Mm.
dinosaurs are the least of your worries.
Yeah, I know.
Anything
Like,
there can kill you.
yeah, and it's her reaction to it and how Mills tries to break it down for her. Yeah, I do like the shit. Like straight away, picked off by carnivores smaller than it. Like
Yeah.
look at that. Like two of them grabbed it, then four of them tore it to pieces. And he kind of just breaks it down. It's she kind of had to learn it the hard way. A lot of these Earth First bastards, they've got to learn it the hard way. I was hearing what this talk. I saw a good discussion about reintroducing wolves to the UK or something. Okay, well, what happens when other populations of animals start going down? Oh, then we can bring something in to deal with the wolves. Oh, well, maybe we just don't reintroduce them to begin with, and we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, they have this kind of warped idea about nature. Like nature is brutal.
Mm.
When these green lovers say they want to go back to nature, they're kind of cheating. They want to go back to nature, but they want the comforts of modern life and urban living. And you know,
You're not living off
like
the
these
grid
people.
if you're getting your groceries drone delivered.
I know, I couldn't believe that story about the eco village. Like, what's all this? We're back in touch with nature bullshit when a fucking drone is flying in your food. What's up with that?
Yeah, he's wrote a book. He's never read a book.
Like, it is just nature is brutal.
Yeah, it's like
Like
I'll
that.
only go camping if I get extended batteries for my phone equipment. Well, the whole point of camping is to unplug.
Yeah,
Like that's, but people can barely get out of, it's funny, like you look at an alcoholic, typically people who like their drink, they can usually keep it in their pants from Monday to Friday and then go nuts on the weekend. You take someone's phone and you lock it into another room, watch just how quickly they start jonesing to get it back. Yeah, I'm in touch with nature. No, you're not.
yeah, very much so.
Yeah, and that's something that it's what happens. Like there was a good episode in Dragon Ball Z that did that when Piccolo throws Gohan out into the wilderness and he befriends that dinosaur. Then that dinosaur gets eaten by an even bigger dinosaur. And it's sharpening Gohan for the Saiyan battle, and that's the way that it is, mate. There's always a bigger fish.
Yeah.
It was like talking about the Spinosaurus in JP3. Like every dog has its day. Something probably meaner came along and killed it in the interim. Like you never know. Which was why I was never so quite upset about the T Rex death in that. Like that, mate. It's a like you look at the areas in the Cretaceous and all of that. Like on our planet, these things run around all the time. Very small landmass with an equivalent to their sizes and their herd capacities and all of that. They kill each other on a day to day basis. Like
Yeah.
that's what these things do.
Yeah.
But then you've got to draw, like when you're talking about like animal preservation and all of that. Well, at what point is too far? Do we stop using herbicides on our crops as well because it kills insects? Like where do we draw the line?
Yeah, it's an interesting issue, and as urban sprawl becomes more pronounced, it'll certainly be an issue that will come to the forefront for a lot of people. There's and the truth will and the solution will be in the middle. People that say all culling is bad are just as you know probably flawed in their reasoning as the people who think, yeah, let's kill them all. That the fact is there are some species that are dangerous to humans, so the population of those species needs to be kept in check. People come first.
Yeah, and that's what I agree with. Like I'm quite shocked by some people's reactions to when you hear things like a tiger handler at Disney World got mauled to death. Well, you're shocked at that. Like not to kind of like divert too much, but like it reminded me of a good moment of Chris Pratt in JW, and that was, is it safe? No, it's not. Like never forget what these animals are. And I'd like to think a
Yeah,
lot of tiger handlers and lion trainers and all that kind of stuff have a similar kind of mindset to that. Is no, it's not safe. Never forget what they are. If killing you serves their best interest in the moment, they'll do it.
yeah. There's another great book. I think it's called Enemy of Man, where there's where they take a really good examination of the like it's a very elite club, like an animal that's capable of killing a human. Yeah, you got the tiger, you got the saltwater crocodile from North Queensland,
Yeah.
the grizzly bear. It's it's just fascinating to read about. Now, some of these designs here, these four-legged theropods, really interesting how they're designed.
I can't
You don't
remember the
see
actual
too many.
name for them. It's the same name they give to the Dimetrodon and all of that. There's quite a few quadrupedal carnivores, and they're not theropods. They're called something else, but I don't
Yeah,
believe
okay.
four-legged meat eaters were actually classed as dinosaurs. Like, I don't
Yeah,
think
I
the
think that's something
Dimetrodon is
else.
actually a dinosaur.
Yeah, no, I think it's something else. Yeah, and I think some of these designs were developed for the film.
Like, some
I
of
think
them are
I
straight up
really,
fictitious, because why not have some fun with it? Like, this is what I don't understand
yeah,
about having scientifically accurate dinosaurs, and Mills has just dislocated his shoulder. And, like, he's not having a good run of luck here. But yeah, like, why not have some fun with the designs? I don't understand this fetish for making them so ridiculously grounded in reality. We're talking about a sci-fi alien crashing on Earth 65 million years ago. Have some fun with the designs, which is something that I think this film does very well.
yeah,
Like Koa
I
taking
think so
cover
too.
here. Koa taking cover here. You see a lot of like, they look like Geostenbergias because of their head crests, but there's no doubt in my mind they've added some alien flair to it, and it looks awesome. It gives the film a bit of an identity if they can make the dinosaurs look their own.
Yeah, I think fictitious dinosaurs is an area ripe for exploring. Like you take the core idea, something that existed in real life, yeah, and just putting a fictional spin on it. It's an area you get some really interesting, cool creature designs. So these people who are going to blow up about unrealistic dinosaurs, I bet they didn't bat an eye at the fact that look, Mel Gibson's got a lot to answer for with these dislocated shoulders in movies. You can pop that prick in. You are still out of action for a couple of weeks. But Mel
Yeah,
Gibson has got a lot of explaining to do.
yeah,
And
straight jacket.
so they've got to crap on about realism. Like this guy you can pop it back in, but you've still got a lot of tendon and muscle and ligament
Yeah,
damage.
ligament damage. Yeah, you usually get, well, what do they call it? Like frozen shoulder, as
Yeah,
well, where
it's
you're just
quite
grinding away at the socket.
like you'd barely like a dislocated finger you could pop in, but still, it's going to give you some grief for the immediate aftermath. But what's the bet these guys, these dinosaur experts who crap on about realism, wouldn't even have batted an eye at that?
Yeah, and then it's always that's different though. It's like when people say, "I don't like CG in my movies." Like, oh, too many movies these days are CG heavy. And then you ask them what are some of their favorite films, and they'll start saying shit like Judgment Day and Jurassic Park and fucking The Abyss and all this kind of stuff. And then, well, those are up to their eyeballs in CG as well. Yeah, but it's good CG. Okay, so you're just wasting my fucking time in this conversation. Is what's going on here. I wanted to point out one of these quadruped carnivores took out one of the flyers just before, and I thought that was
Yes, I
cool.
did
Like,
notice that.
they immediately give up on Koa and take out an easier kill. Like, a very predatory behavior. And I love how Mills
Yeah,
fires off a couple of warning shots, because who knows how many more of them were there. Um,
yeah, they're quite an unsettling design because I think the directors or the writers said they were playing the monsters for to be scary, and they just look unsettling. It's hard to because yeah, we're so used to seeing like theropods as bipedal, so the fact these things can crawl and twist and writhe, they're really unsettling to look at.
it's almost
So they've done their
spider-like
job.
in a way, yeah.
Yeah, it's really unsettling. There are some good scares in this, jump scares.
Yeah, it did catch me off guard quite a few times, and also the flyers behaving like seagulls. Again, another thing that people seem to get hung up about. Like, they talk about how dinosaurs in movies and all of that, they should act like animals and not like monsters. I don't understand, guys, why they can't be both.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know about you, but they can be both. Like, I know Spielberg said like it was important to show the T-Rex as an animal, not so much as a monster. Like, Spielberg says a lot of shit from time to time. You got like look at the. This is the same guy who brought a T-Rex back to San Diego and turned it into a fucking Godzilla movie, which is the apex of monsters. So I wouldn't be taking that comment of his to heart with every bit of dinosaur media that comes out. Like, I quite liked how you had the flyers acting like animals, but these things were being the monster, and the needle just immediately swings. Like, you can have it both ways. People
Yeah.
seem to be forgetting that quite a bit. When it comes to things like it's one in, all in. Like, creative direction, nope, it's one in, all in. Um, and I do like the kind of hand flute, and it does help that Cole is a girl, and we know Mills is a father. Like when his daughter was in strife and all of that, he has these kind of paternal instincts on how to kind of break through a little bit.
Yeah.
So it is nice to have like after quite a thrilling moment like that. And yeah, you're right. He wouldn't be using hand flutes with a dislocated shoulder.
The realism.
Yeah, yeah. But these are the same guys who'll talk about realism, and they'll have a poster of Rambo 3 in the background, like of their video, and it'll be, well, Rambo, like, Sly gets shot through the leg, gets up, puts weight on that same leg to fight a tank in that film. And you want to argue about realism. Yeah, the piggyback ride Warren thing here, I like this. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the moment when Peter does it to Lucy in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, when when the beaver keeps telling them to hurry up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that kind of stuff there with two actors like that. Actors being used as props, I believe you said. It's always good to see that.
Yeah, it's quite funny when it happens.
So it's been a fair slog. So it's basically been like a full day's worth of walking. I found these kind of crystals that he puts up quite interesting. They must be like sirens if you cross them or something.
Yeah, I guess a motion tracker or an early warning system, yeah. Proximity alert. It's really cool.
And that's what I mean. And like the kind of the smoke pellet balls that are actually they're like little thermal detonators. Oh yeah, total Lucas ripoff. All right, I'm sure if we go all the way back through everything that's ever been created ever, I'm sure someone came up with a laser grenade before Lucas did.
Yeah, and it pays off in an interesting way a bit later as well with the girl. I liked the little moment that happened.
And I like the weaponry being used as tools.
Yeah,
Like, I believe it's the sequence coming up where they're caved in, using the grenades to sort of clear debris, like using an offensive weapon as a tool.
yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, I miss that, and none of that seems to happen anymore. Now you create, you create a gun. Well, all it can be done is shot. Like, you can only shoot with it. That's it. No room for creativity. Past that. I quite like that PDA device. It's like this scanner. It's all sorts of things. I don't believe it's ever named in the film. But having said that, again, it doesn't need to be named though.
Yeah.
Like, we get the broad strokes of what it does. And now that you made a mention earlier that Mills is just a pilot, like he's not actually a soldier, it makes me wonder if the uniform that he's wearing is pilot attire.
Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah.
Just something he decided to slip into. See, here's something I find very interesting, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. You get this moment where he uses the hologram to kind of put Kara at ease so she goes to sleep, and they've kind of had quite a hellish day. Like, she could have easily have been killed on the beach and all of that. A lot of people would say a moment like this completely changes the tone of the film and takes you out of it. I don't necessarily agree with that. What about you?
No, not at all. It's a lovely little scene.
yeah, like I don't think having a little ray of sunshine in a film that's pretty bleak about survival, um, you know, I don't think that totally derails it. There seems to be this belief that goes around that if a film's about survival, then it's got to be beating you down all the time. Like, I don't think that's true. I think you can have, and we have had bits of comedy with these two earlier in the film with the mosquito that he squashed and all of that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that totally derails the feeling of the movie. Having a few little laughs and chuckles here, there, and everywhere, I don't think it ruins it.
Yeah, just a few moments of levity sprinkled there. They're really effective.
Yeah, night, and I still, night shoots, they always fascinate me quite a bit. Like, because they are, from what I gather, shooting at night is just such a pain in the ass.
Yeah, well, it is if crews don't know what they're doing because it takes a lot of skill and technique to light it correctly. Like nighttime shooting needs a lot of correct lighting, so so you're able to actually see what you've shot.
It's not
So
just that though, but audiences seeing it, like, how usually, like take this scene for example, how there's no actual like lighting source in context to the, well, like Mills hasn't got a lamp set up anywhere. Like this is what, well, like he just put a lamp on his shoulder there, so like this kind of bluish hue. What the characters see is pitch black. We're seeing this as an audience on the outside looking in. Like we made a mention of this on the Point Break chat when they go out night surfing. We can see them through the way the film is shot and the way it's lit on the beach, with that kind of bluish tint to everything at night. Usually, what they do, but the characters themselves cannot see a fucking thing, and it's a similar deal here, which is why they make a point of him putting the lamp on. Is that these characters, they can't see anything. Like all they're seeing now is the red flashing lights, but we can see them clear as day.
yeah, that's correct. Yeah,
Yeah, I love the
I quite like that
yeah.
shoulder light he's got on the harness.
I love this how he pulls out the shadow reveal technique. It's an oldie and a goodie, isn't it? Um,
Yeah, there's lots of little nods to throwbacks. It's
and setting up the Jesus.
earlier films, and it has fun with it. It's not um, trying to compete with Jurassic Park. It's There's a lot of loving little nods and winks to it because Jurassic Park is like the grandfather of the genre. But I really enjoyed a lot of the nods and winks to it. I found they were done in really good spirit.
And a lot of them kind of go over your head, even if no matter how hardcore of a Jurassic fan you are. Like there's quite a few of
Yeah,
them that happen in this film that I didn't quite get were references until after the fact, and I'm like, well,
yeah,
that's good. Like a lot of
yeah,
people would say it's nostalgia baiting. I'm like, I wouldn't really. How can it be nostalgia baiting when it's not even connected to the franchise we're jerking off over? Like
yeah.
it
You see it a lot in fantasy genre as well. There's lots of little nods and winks and Easter eggs to the Lord of the Rings because that's the granddaddy of them all.
I remember hearing, like in the '90s and all of that, things like a Turok movie, like in the early 2000s, late '90s, things like a Turok movie were real discussions. But because Jurassic Park blew up the way that it did, Hollywood in general basically just said, well, Jurassic Park owns dinosaurs now. Like unless it's got Crichton and Spielberg stamped on it, we can't really do anything with dinosaurs. I'm glad this film just came out because why the hell not? Like now
Yeah,
things like a Turok movie are well within the realms of possibility now. Like,
yeah. I hope one day I quite like that character in the mythology. The really cool shot as well of the oviraptor. It's an oviraptor, right?
I
The
believe
distinct.
is it an oviraptor or a Utahraptor? I get those
Beautiful.
two mixed up.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's a Utah raptor. I don't think a Utah raptor had the crescent on its
I think
snout.
it must be an oviraptor.
Yeah,
And it does not let up. Like, and the little scene here, I think it's a ways away yet. I'll talk about it when it happens. Um, So yeah, you try to get a few moments of shut eye. That creature that attacked, I believe, I'm not too sure because I do think some of this was quite just made up on the fly, and that's
Yeah,
another like that giant carnivore there is basically the end game villain of the piece. It's I don't think it's
yes,
a real dinosaur. It seems to be quadrupedal. It can get up on its back legs, and it kind of has just really long arms. It's real crazy looking design. And I'm
yeah.
glad it wasn't something uninspired like a Spinosaurus or something like that. I'm glad that the big bad. I'm glad that it wasn't a T Rex, even though they do get their moment to shine in the movie. I'm glad that the big bad wasn't something that we'd seen before in another dinosaur series. I'm glad that they just decided to make this thing and go with it.
Yeah, yeah. You'll have to have the T-Rex in there at some point.
I mean,
And
it's like when people talk about their top five Zelda games. I'm like, I mean, Ocarina's got to be on there somewhere, right? Like T Rex and Velociraptor. I mean, if you're doing a dinosaur movie, they got to be on there. And I don't believe we see any sauropods in the film either. Really kind of keep on track of the hunters and the predators of
Mm.
the Cretaceous.
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, that's probably something the film on a accuracy level does get right, because I think the sauropods thrived in the Jurassic period. By the Cretaceous and late Cretaceous, they'd all died out. Maybe a few species, sauropod species, has survived, but I think that like the giant long neck, like the brachiosaurs and the Diplodocus and those sorts of things, they thrived and flourished in the Jurassic period. You know what, 200 million years before this. So, but a couple of them may have survived on. I don't think so, from memory. So that's something, interestingly enough, is probably accurate to the time period.
Well, we're talking to we're talking about these kind of what's the internet lingo? I think purist is the title that they get. I wouldn't be arguing about the scientific accuracy about the land before time, for example. Maybe Don Bluth chose the dinosaurs that he chose, like the Parasaurolophus and the T Rex and the long necks and all. Maybe he chose all of them because they're awesome dinosaurs.
Yeah, we picked the ones that looked cool.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah, and who thought the movie was bad? No one, no one was complaining. It's like the Giganotosaurus fighting the T Rex, and they existed in two separate times. Apparently, who cares? It looks cool. Like
Yeah.
like these grenade. Yeah, this is what I'd have done. Like this is almost kind of a nod to Hicks and Newt, isn't it? Don't touch that, dangerous honey. Nah, give her a bag full of them. You know what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I'll much like yourself, I'll get to it when the scene comes up, but I do like what happens with the bombs.
And this was probably the one trump card that they had with these two on their quest to get to the other half of the ship, and that was at some point. I mean, the trump card is to separate them, isn't it?
Yeah, and which sets up the payoff with the whistling to
Yeah.
find their way back to each other. So you got that dramatic symmetry.
God, this is what I've never understood about like spelunkers and cave divers and crawling
Yeah.
around in this stuff. You guys are fucking insane. Like the amount of
Yeah,
accidents
this
and people I've heard dying, these horrific deaths, like not even getting crushed to death. Like it's I wouldn't even wish it on my worst enemy, mate. Even the most despicable people in history. Fuck, you guys have got some balls doing this.
Yeah, this scene was the one I found most difficult to get through. I'm not saying I'm claustrophobic or anything like that, but yeah, I would hate to be in that position, being stuck in a cave. That scene made me wince more than some of the dino attacks in the film.
Yeah, it is, especially like those crawl spaces. Like
Yeah.
I see people go exploring in these, and I've had a bit of a fascination with it over the last couple of days. But I would never ever want to do it because, like, one wrong turn, mate, you can't do a Yui and get out. Like I've heard
Yeah.
about people getting trapped completely upside down in a tunnel that narrow, and gravity just crushed them to death. Their organs just weighing down on them. Like it's a horrific way to die if it goes wrong. Um,
Yeah, and you had that famous story of was it the school children in Thailand who got stuck in the cave, or the cave was flooded and they were trapped? I
Yeah,
think Ron Howard
the
did a movie
entrance.
about it.
Yeah, the entrance got flooded in, didn't it? And they were trapped in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, and how they got them out, they put them to sleep with anesthetic because they didn't trust the kids not to freak out and panic and burn up their oxygen. They put them to sleep and carried them out. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, here we go. Now this is, yeah, I know, cave diving, all that. Well, I'm not a big fan of diving full stop because like unless you're in like the most expert hands, that can go wrong so quickly. Like cave diving, diving in general, cave exploring and all of that. Like I've only been in a few caves in my life, but none of these kind of narrow passage crawls.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed this. I believe this is the moment where Mills, like, he sets up the PDA, like on the ground to try and pick up the proximity alert of where it is, and you get
yeah,
the again another awesome use of the shadow reveal when it dawns on him where it actually is.
yeah. They really amped up the oviraptor, unless its sort of reputation has become more fearsome in the interim. But I remember as a kid reading about it, I thought it mainly just stole eggs
That's what
from
I thought.
nests.
Yeah, like, cause isn't that what its
Uh,
name means? Like egg thief or something?
yeah, there was that famous fossil discovered of it locked in battle with a protoceratops. Like I think they dealt a killing blow to each other. The protoceratops crushed its chest just as it was killed by the oviraptor's claws, and that's how they were fossilized, locked in mortal combat.
And that happened quite a lot. There's a lot of, like that's why it's like famous for artists to do restorations of the T Rex killing a Parasaurolophus because so many of them were like found near each other. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, and this action sequence is really just balls to the wall. This like none of this shaky cam stuff, and I love how it uses the proximity scan on the data assistant to show us the action. So when the
yeah,
light goes out and drags him away, like yeah, it's kind of shadowy and it sinks its teeth into him. The entire fight takes place over the scanner. I love that beat so much, and we can see what's going on still. That's beautiful. That I love that.
yeah.
God, man, it's really making him work for it. And I was gonna say, yeah, like a bit of Die Hard going on. Like I love seeing the heroes slowly accumulate damage over the film.
Yeah, he takes a lot of punishment in this film.
Well, that's him in almost pretty much every movie that he's in. Like Adam Driver's no stranger to, getting slashed across the face with a laser sword. Um,
Yeah, it's Ray is a very soon. No, the guy got fucking shot with a crossbow. He might not be at the top of his game right now.
yeah, and which by the way, I love that moment, and like that's what I'm talking about. This was awesome. How she's using this tooth and she poisons the tip with the berries that he told her not to eat.
Yeah,
Like this is just fantastic. Well. I'm pretty sure these days you'd get an awesome commentary telling you about how would you know how to do that. Well, if you've been actively watching the film up until this point and not passively watching it like a knob, you would understand that this was well and truly set up.
yeah,
And then the asteroid just getting so much bigger. And I think this is. I'm not too sure if Mills has looked up and actually saw it before. I know Koa has noticed it before. I think this is the first time he's seen it.
yeah. I meant to look up today, but I didn't have time. If it actually had a name, in Stephen Baxter's book Evolution, he calls it the Devil's Tail, the comet that killed the dinosaurs. I wonder if it ever actually had a proper name in scientific circles.
Just think about this. That rock, mate, has been out there for eons, just
Yeah,
darting towards us. That thing has come from so far out of nowhere, it is not
yeah.
even funny. And the only spot it was ever going to hit was us. Like, that's by design in my book. Like, that doesn't
Considering,
happen by accident.
well, considering Earth has a natural defense with Jupiter, because
Mm.
Jupiter's so big, it takes a lot of the heavy hits that would otherwise slip through. But yeah, occasionally one of them does get through, and Jupiter has enormous gravitational pull because it's what 270 times bigger than Earth. So Jupiter really what did Graham Hancock say? Thanks, Jupiter, for taking one for the team. But occasionally one does slip through.
Well, I like to think Jupiter channels a bit of Happy Gilmore. Yeah, that's the shit. Like when he jumps
Yeah,
out in front of the baseball machine,
yeah,
like that's Jupiter for us.
yeah,
y-
and it also has to get through the asteroid belt. So it's quite it was just shocking, horrendous luck. Although good for the mammals, good for us that it happened, but it wasn't so good for the dinosaurs in hindsight. Now this scene that pays off the bombs, I really enjoy. It was because like your natural tendency is to think like just throw one down there, but then you think she's what 9 years old. Of course, it's a 9-year-old thing to do is to throw them all in
yeah,
when one would have done the job. So I quite liked that moment. It seemed a lot more authentic and plausible than her having the smarts just to toss one in and keep the rest. No, she's terrified. She's just going to dump them all in and set them off.
this was a very sort of chilling moment for me as well when he does the scissor kick over the log and lands into the quicksand. And
Yeah,
just look at how well camouflaged it was. Like he literally jumped like head first into that and had no idea
yeah,
of what that was. And you hear about these tales again of people who get themselves in very sticky situations like that and they don't make it out. And also this is a very good moment for her as well as that she saves him. Um,
yeah,
which again is another one of those kind of it's the natural sort of thing that you would do with these two people. He saves her at the start. They get split up while they're on their journey together. It comes full circle. She saves him. They reunite. So it literally
yeah,
does like that's what a story like this would naturally evolve into, and it's done those four things.
yeah,
Yeah, I did quite like the hug. Like one thing that I love about Adam Driver, I've never caught this with an actor probably since Michael Bean. I love when Michael Bean screams, especially when he says "shut up." Like he does it in Aliens, he does it in Terminator, and I think Adam Driver is the only other actor I can think of who really nails it. Like when he screams Koa's name, like the traitor line in Star Wars, like he's got a very powerful voice
yeah,
when he screams and he starts roaring like that, like when his character is going into just badass mode, like desperate mode. He's got such a powerful voice when he does things like that. I put him up there with Michael Bean in that regard. Like, oh man, chills every time.
yeah,
And also again, one of the things that I love the most about using the KT extinction to be the kind of end game of this film was the pieces of the meteor shower kind of decorating the sky, like in this pretty kind of light. Like it's beautiful but ridiculously dangerous. Like it's the hard reset of the planet Earth is what it is. And I often think about, like, I love artist restorations and depictions of what that day might have looked like I mean, how do we know the sky wasn't like magenta all over because of all the fumes and all that kind of stuff, the reaction of it entering our atmosphere, the oxygen rich, like what kind of noise did it make? Would it have been blinding to see? I love how the film
yeah. Would have been
experiments with all of those.
anyone that looked up at it was instantly blinded. It would have, broken the sound barrier. It would have just basically anyone that was close enough to see it smack into the earth would have been instantly obliterated.
And
Just
while
to,
dinosaurs evolved physically, we evolved like mentally and technologically. And I do like hearing people, like, I know Elon Musk is not everyone's favorite person, but I do quite enjoy him talking about hypotheticals like this. And I remember him answering a question of if a KT extinction meteor hit us again, as it did with the dinosaurs, and he basically cut the question short and said, "We're not even in the fight. If it
yeah,
happened again right now, there'd be dick all we could do about it."
yeah, that very much so. Yeah,
And doesn't
we
that
still
just
don't have.
doesn't that keep you awake at night?
Well, we still don't have the technological means of stopping it. It'll be even worse for us because we can actually comprehend what's going to happen to us, whereas the dinosaurs couldn't. So it's even worse. But
Yeah.
misery loves company, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, that's true as well. You know, yeah, did you even have a smile on your face? Fuck no. And another film that kind of popped into my mind when going back to '65 was what was the Will Smith one with Jaden Smith, that After Earth
Oh,
or what?
After Earth. Yeah,
Yeah, except that was a futuristic Earth where nature's kind of taken everything back and megafauna has risen again and all that kind of jazz. Like I do kind of get vibes from that um, in this. Only I think this is a bit more well crafted and put together than what that was.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so part of this ship is still functional. And I believe there's an escape pod within this. It's kind of like the Ark having a little Autobot shuttle in it. So this isn't what gets them out, but there's a pod inside of it that can get them out.
yeah,
And yeah, you can't have the heroes, and we're in like this nice, friendly kind of blue. Everything's working. I mean, like, this is something that a lot of films do. Like when the power goes out in a film, like you get that sudden dread. Like in Aliens, like when the power cuts out, you get that reddish hue to everything. Doesn't help that it's red, but suddenly the dread's in there again. Like when this part of the ship powered on, you do get that sense of relief. I think that's
yeah,
kind of innate to human behavior. Like when there's a vicious storm in your area and the power goes out to your house, some people it's just a minor inconvenience. It'll come back on when it comes back on. We'll get the internet back and we're rocking and rolling again. But for some people, they do kind of fall into that trap of, well, we're completely cut off now. And they start panicking, and then you do see people kind of light up when the lights do come back on. I like when films feature that, and you get a bit of that there.
yeah.
And also, one thing I love about Adam Driver is that I'm glad that he's never become, like, don't get me wrong, the guy's pretty fit, but he's never gone the fucking the Jai Courtney buff shredded fucking muscle brain. Like he's never fallen into that trap, and I love it.
Yeah.
Like he looks like a regular guy. Like what? Who doesn't like that? I love Adam Driver looking like a regular guy.
Yeah, it just seems to yeah, just regular exercise.
Yeah, he enjoys a birdie beetle from time to time. Blue and orange people. It's like the ultimate uh, complementary color palette, isn't it? Like you have like these blues at nights and in sci-fi environments, then these oranges and the clashes between the two. Like blue and orange just go hand in hand in film lighting, don't they?
Yeah, well, I was reading a book about colors and how the eye and the brain perceive them, and I found it really interesting because yeah, they're two colors that go together that you wouldn't think would go together. Another pair I found interesting was black and green. They go together, and another pair, which I was surprised to hear, but believe it or not, pink and brown go well together apparently. So I
Hmm.
found I'm not sure how I got onto it. Um, Maybe when I was doing my geometric drawing and whatnot and experimenting with colors, but yeah, these um, pink and brown are a color set that go well together, and two colors that don't go well together, but I see them well all the time apparently, is green and red. Like the brain kind of senses a clash there. I found it really interesting to read about.
Yeah, I mean, like colors enhance things quite a bit, and for some reason, there's this fetish going around that if a film is muted into black and white, suddenly that makes the film good. Like I saw a good one, like what was it? Like Zack Snyder's Justice League in black and white. Fucking why? Like you're talking about comic characters that are meant to be bright and colorful. Why the fuck would you watch a movie like that in black and white? Like,
Yeah, it's not just him though, but even with his color films, they're all desaturated and washed out. But he's one of the ringleaders, but it's everywhere now. Everything has this bland, ugly, utilitarian color look and
Sterile
feel
is
to
a
it.
good word I use to describe it.
Yeah, it's just not. Again, it's probably another reason why movies struggle to catch on because it's just so ugly and boring to look at. Most films these days.
See, like you've got the we had the bright, beautiful colors of the nebula at the start of it. We had the greens of Earth, the savannah, like with the oranges and browns of like the high grass with the tar pit. We had the caves. We got these sci-fi environments. We got the geysers. We got the meteorite. Like there's a lot of colors happening in this film, and they're not getting washed out or playing second fiddle to anything else. It
Yeah,
truly baffles me because that's how you know it's mature when the colors are desaturated because it's a mature
yeah,
take. That's how you know it's mature when it's ugly.
yeah. That's right. Yeah, it's grown up. Don't joke. This is serious.
It's a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
And this was my favorite callback to Jurassic Park, where the spaceship crashing through the tree. I don't know if it's deliberate or not, or even if it's intentional, but that just reminded me a lot of the car going over the edge in the first JP film.
yeah, and they're literally back in the ship again as well.
Yeah, yeah, I found that really funny.
So
I don't think it was
yeah.
deliberate, but when the dinosaur looks through the window at him, you can't help but think it's an awfully big coincidence.
You know how whenever something dinosaur related comes out, it's immediately compared to Jurassic Park? It reminds me of that fucking Aquaman quote. I think it might have been in the Joss Whedon version when the Flash asks him about Wonder Woman. Do you think she'd ever show interest in a younger guy? She's 4,000 years old, Barry. Every guy's a younger guy. And it reminds me of everything dinosaur related. Of course, it's a JP knockoff, but that doesn't mean you can't have good knockoffs. It's like when people say, "Oh, it's a very fan fictiony idea." Yeah, but that doesn't mean you can't have good fan fictions, though. Don't get me wrong. There's plenty of shit ones, but you can have good ones as well. God, and this T Rex, man, it does not let up. Like for a second, I thought this was going to end on a down note. Like I know Sam Raimi produced this, and I mean he's a guy who's not that has any bearing on where this goes and all, but I mean you're honestly going to tell me people don't turn around and ask him what he reckons from time to time? He's a guy who doesn't mind, like he doesn't shy away from ending on a down note from time to time, and I thought these T Rexes were going to show up and destroy the ship, or at the very least Koa would get away and Mills would die. I'm very happy that this didn't do that because nothing shits me more than going on a ride with a character just for them to fucking die at the end. Particularly when they do it in the first act. Like, they'll get you invested in a character, then the character's just offed before the halfway mark. Well, all of that runtime doesn't matter anymore. Like, you could have started the film with the character's death, and it changes nothing. Like, it really gives me the shits when they do that. But I'm glad this film had the restraint not to do it.
Yeah, I got that impression when he sunk into the pit, where the camera just sort of lingers there, and it lingers there, and a
For
couple
quite
of
a
beats go
while,
by,
actually,
you think,
doesn't it? Yeah. It's a
yeah, like
substantial pause.
yeah, holy shit, they really killed him.
Oh, it just gives me the shits. And yeah, bringing in a second T Rex, because why not? We got to have a bigger dick. But I also want to point out, yeah, Mills, like the only thing that's keeping him going is getting this girl home. I love how he just does not fuck around, and the man kills two T Rexes on his own. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, Koa uses the projector here, but he pulls out that gun, man, and he puts in the work. Roland, take notes. Like, this is how you do it.
Yeah, this is how you deal with these situations.
Yeah, right. What staff room is the prick in? Yeah. Adam Driver rocking the beard, which is something a lot of these guys kind of do, don't they? They go in for the beard. Driver does it. What I think Andrew Garfield does it these days. Keanu Reeves has like always done it.
Yeah. Like Thomas Jane, he's credited as Tom Jane. Why? Because it's meant to make him sound tougher.
Oh, I've always called him Tommy Jane. I go the opposite. Yeah, I love how the dinosaur was eating the daughter through the hologram, and then Mills just blows its head off. Well, look, if you want to blow its fucking head off,
Yeah.
And I love these T-Rex designs. Like, there's a little bit of Peter Jackson V-Rex in them. There's a bit of Stan Winston in them from JP. There's a bit of everything in them. There's a bit of Jurassic the Hunted in them. Like, and I think you've done a good job when people can look at your dinosaur design and they know what it is. Like, realism, accuracy be damned, because we don't know what the fuck they look like for real. As long as people can tell what it is, you've done a good job.
If you want to blow its fucking head off.
Yeah, the ship was upright. So the T-Rex inadvertently helped them by bashing the shit out of it. Veronica, I thank you for beating the shit out of me. Oh god, he's looking a little worse for wear here. Yeah, I just don't like movies that end on a like, I know some instances the bittersweet ending kind of works, but I think when you've had kind of, because this is more of an adventure thriller than a straight up horror film. Like the trailers are fairly misleading. Like, it does have some jump scares in it and all of that, but I wouldn't out and out say this is a horror film.
Yeah. It's definitely some scares in it, but yeah, overall it's not a horror film. It's more
you wouldn't call Jurassic Park a horror film, even though it doesn't shy away from a few scares and violence. Like, it's not a horror film, regardless of how badly fans want it to be, or want it to go back to being one, or whatever. And I love this. This is like the second or third time they've done it in this film. These long shots of Adam just sprinting. Like, they did it before he fell into the tar pit, and they're doing it again here. Like, I love that. Like, don't just do some pissant little jump cut, then use the B-roll of it. No, just have him run his ass off for 2 minutes.
Yeah, and I did have a chuckle when he rolls his ankle, because you're expecting this heroic leap and dive and somersault or something. Nah, he leaps the trunk, bang, rolls his ankle.
Yeah, he does a Nick Cage Bad Lieutenant.
Yeah, yeah.
He jumps in and then fucks his back. It's almost like an Ace Ventura throwback, isn't it? When he gets darted and he's like running and he's all spastic, trying to get away from him. Yeah, and then this creature, I don't think this is from a fossil record at all. Like, this is made up for the movie, isn't it? I've got no idea what this thing is or what it's trying to be. I've always thought it was made up.
Yeah, it's a fictional dinosaur, but it looks so cool. And like, its skin is melting, getting caught in that sulfur spurt, and it's still just very, very determined to kill this man.
And it doesn't give a shit, like, that it's getting burnt. And and that's the poisoned tipped tooth that she did with the berries, and she flat out blinds it. She didn't miss. Again, showing, like, when he saves her from, like, on the beach from a quadrupedal carnivore, she's saving him from this apex predator. Like, I like A-sides and B-sides like that in films. Like, I think that's the real magic of a movie can come from things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
as long as there's a payoff, because so many scenes and stories now just seem to go nowhere. A lot of it has to do with sequel baiting and things like that. Like, there's very few, although we are sort of seeing some green shoots of growth on that front, where like more and more just sort of standalone one and done films do seem to be cropping up, whereas stories never go anywhere anymore because they're sequel baiting. Like, if something's going to get a green light, it's got to have franchise potential, which means open-ended stories and, just these plots that are searching for characters for something to do. But we are sort of, I get the sense the tide is slowly turning as the comet.
Yeah, like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, people are saying, like, they're over franchise baiting, they're over bad superhero fatigue, they're over this, that, and the other, and they want some good films that come in under 2 hours. Again, something comes along and ticks all of those boxes, you don't watch it. And then you'll turn around and say, vote with your dollars, people. Well, All right then. Well, like, you know what? I'm gonna quote Airheads here. Well, if 65 was so hot, how come it wasn't tearing up the box office, babe? Because you never went and saw it, babe.
Yeah. Well, I do. I think I read on Reddit this afternoon, just sort of perusing some reaction about it. It had some stiff competition, I think, when it came out. I forget what the movie was though, but it kind of overshadowed everything at the time.
And this also released early. Like this was meant to be a 2022 release. It got knocked back to April of 23, but then it got brought forward to March. Like, and that's pretty rare at this day and age with constant films getting reshoots and that all the time that a film gets brought forward. And I think the reason for that is because again, it's just having a bit of fun. Like this is just we're throwing a dinosaur movie out there the year after Jurassic Park 6 because why the hell not?
Yeah.
I love that skyline when they cut back to Samaras.
Yeah.
Like it's just so like these gleaming streaks of light through the cloud line. And now we get this kind of... I believe it makes a mention that they're going to a rescue ship now.
Yeah, so they're going to meet at an interception point.
Yeah.
And get picked up, yeah.
Which is, you know, I do like compared to where Mills was, I do like a good turnaround, and both these people have found peace with each other. Like, I don't think you'd ever forget something like that. Yeah, that's real good. That, like, I'm glad that we don't get the they get away, but he succumbs of his injuries, because that stuff just it pisses me because it's a cheat. Like it really is a cheat just for this, just so you can have some tearjerker moment like that. Not that it hasn't ever worked before, but it really, when everything is hinting at that they're both going to get away, and then you just kind of pull the rug out from underneath them. Like, yeah, that gives me the shits. And very creative credits here as well, with the dead apex predator becoming a skeleton and then getting fossil. I believe we go through the Ice Age.
Yeah, we go right up to human civilization. Yeah, much like yourself, I really enjoy movies that do something interesting with either the opening or closing credits as we go through.
And you see a mastodon over there.
Yeah, that's something I missed earlier today.
Yeah, it's really cool that we see a mastodon / woolly mammoth. Yeah, just awesome. And then and just to show you how adaptable our planet is, because I know a lot of people are like, yeah, we need to get our electric cars going, got to end fossil fuels, the ozone layer, this, that, and the other. This, like, I think even Dr. Crichton might have said this, and he was like, the planet was doing fine before humans rocked up. Long after we're all dead and buried and humankind is a forgotten memory, the planet is still going to be here. The Earth is tough.
Yeah. It's like concrete is going to outlive a human. Like my driveway will outlive me, It just sits there and does nothing. Like, like the footpath outside my home will outlive me.
I saw like my hard drive full of fucking downloaded movies is going to be what I leave behind.
It's my legacy.
Yeah, for Chip. I saw the Chris Bacon had the music credit there. I originally heard that Danny Elfman was tied into this, frequent collaborator of Sam Raimi. And I believe that Danny Elfman still has some co-writing credits on some of the tracks in this film that we use for the score. And I believe Michael Giacchino also had a hand in it as well. And I'm glad that he's kind of blowing up the way that he's doing. Because, the guy started his career writing music for Jurassic Park video games. He's scored the Jurassic World trilogy, and he's having hands in little side projects like this now. So, but I'll have to look at Chris. I know Chris Bacon ended up getting the sole music credit for the film, but Elfman and Giacchino do have their features on the soundtrack.
Yeah, it's what an incredible story that is to go from that to that. Wow. And Scott Beck and Brian Woods, the writers and directors, they also had a hand in that A Quiet Place.
That's the John Krasinski, Emily Blunt, isn't it?
Yeah, I haven't really kept in touch with that series. I did see the first one and remember really enjoying it. So I was, yeah, their names didn't ring a bell, but as it turns out, yeah, I looked them up and yeah, they co-wrote A Quiet Place. But I haven't, I would like to, I'd like to rewatch that first film again, but I think it's up to its third or fourth installment now, so that had some legs in it as well.
Yeah, no, it's if you build it, they will come. But I think,
Yeah,
and there's a Skywalker Sound credit there as well. um,
yeah,
Lucasfilm Limited. Yeah, I think I do think you were right. Just sort of as a closing thought to this, I do think the 90-minute format is going to come back. Not just because you can get more screenings in a day and all of that, is because I think like after COVID and that kind of jazz, I just don't think people like going to the movies as much anymore. So if they
yeah,
can get these run times down to this and not so much return to, you know, smaller budgets or or what you'd consider a small budget film to be, like Sudden Death or something, like not go back to that, but like get rid of a lot of the clutter that is in a lot of films. Like I know it's sequel baiting, but even films that don't do that, that aren't even trying to be part of a universe, like none of these films need to be damn near 3 hours long, you know. And yeah, nah, I do think we're going to start seeing a lot more 130. Like look at the runtime for that new Empire, Godzilla and Kong. Like that just barely hits 2 hours. You know, like
yeah.
that's a good sign, people. I think it's going to happen. Yeah, it's going to be a bit more of a trend.
Yeah, I certainly hope so because I think it's a combination of things. Yes, these things have become too expensive. Yes, people, a vast majority of people no longer frequent the movies on a regular basis.
Mm.
And but also it doesn't bother me as much as anymore because I pretty much predominantly watch only old stuff now where the running times are very lean and tight. So I often sort of check out Turner Classic Movies if there's anything worth checking out, and movies from the '70s and things like that. But yeah, like you said, there's a couple of films that I've checked out recently that are more modern and new in the last year or two or so. That yeah, they barely run for 90 minutes, like with credits. So yeah, keep it up. We need more of it.
I just saw an Australian government logo on the credits there. That's interesting.
Yeah, and they had a hand in something else as well that I saw the other day. I thought it was interesting. Yeah, but that's like you look at how many production companies had a hand in it. It's that just goes to show the sad state of original properties. It's so hard to get an original property up. Like it needs, many co-producers and to to get it made. So, but it's good when one sneaks in and does really well because that will lead to more, hopefully more interesting ideas getting picked up rather than the 11th reboot of a tired, worn-out old franchise.
Or the reboot of a reboot of a reboot of a reboot that has failed every single time to be the first installment of a trilogy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah, well, that's what I reckon. I reckon, yeah, we're going back to that, and I think 65 was a step in the right direction. So a bit more of this, and I'll definitely be buying some more of that popcorn money.
yeah.